I really believe the Democratic Party is on its last stand. It is a dying party. It will go the way of the Whigs in a century past.
The Whigs. Now, there are other people jumping on my bandwagon, I've noticed here the last couple of days. That is a lifelong Democrat, an elected Democrat, saying that the Democrat Party maybe should go the way of the Whigs, be lost to the sands of time. Really, I think they should have been dissolved after the first Civil War that they started. But that's me. I don't want to be too strict, but the nuns made quite an impression on me when I was a child. I think maybe if those standards were applied to the Democrats today, well, they might get their heads slammed against the chalkboard. Sorry, having a flashback. A little flashback for me there. Sister Mary Mark taught me a thing or two. A very good Tuesday to you, and welcome back once again. We continue to be at 888-630-9625. And the abundant insanity of the Democrat Party from their boy in Boulder, Colorado. Their jihadi pal. Is he going to become the new hero? They're going to have T-shirts with him. Is he the new Luigi Mangione? You know, the left has really come out of the closet in the United States when it comes to being terrorists and killers, which they're the left. Again, they're not liberals, they're the left. And once you realize that they're the left, everything changes. It's like a light switch. Boom, everything changes. So we've got that. And it turns out the terrorist, this was kind of creeping around a little bit yesterday like a Democrat, but it turns out the terrorist has a daughter here in the United States. He's an illegal alien, and his daughter just graduated from high school. We learned yesterday he wanted to hold off on the terrorist attack until his daughter had graduated from high school. She's apparently been accepted to 2 colleges in Colorado because liberals are insane and mentally ill, and they've accepted this young woman to 2 different colleges in Colorado. Personally, I think maybe catapulted into the Atlantic Ocean, get a giant oversized catapult and fling her into the ocean, maybe take her on a plane ride. Where'd she come from? Kuwait. She came from Kuwait. Now, Dad, he's from Egypt, and somehow she is from Kuwait, and he's here illegally, so she presumably isn't here legally, right? But we've got a pretty dumb immigration system, especially with the Democrats and Joe Biden being in charge for 4 years prior to this year and President Trump taking control again. America taking America back for America, as you might imagine, because that's the thing. Just great. The Colorado suspect now charged with federal hate crime. I would certainly think so, being a radical Islamic jihadi terrorist, genocidal anti-Semite attack. You're hosing people down with flamethrower and then Molotov cocktails. I would think that, while chanting the Democrat Party chant of, what is it, free Gaza, and what's he chanting? He's chanting, free Palestine, Palestine is free. It's as free as it's ever going to be. Don't you know who runs the hellhole? Come on, take a whiff. And it's not Jif. It's not at all. So now charged with hate crime. He planned his anti-Semitic attack for a year. The 9/11 guys, that took them like 5 years to plan that. If that's why they're 1,000 years behind every other culture and civilization, because everything takes forever. Takes a year to plan that. What kind of a maroon are you? We should just give the electric chair for that. Isn't that amazing? I think, what do you think? Electric chair for this guy? I think so. I think that, what do we even have electric chairs for if we're not going to use them? But now charged with a hate crime. The people at CNN, they've got a lot of issues there, don't they? They've got a great many issues. But the Democrat Party, are they on the way out as an organized political party? I've got some audio that I'm going to share with you today that might suggest even Democrats are thinking maybe the Democrat Party has run its course. Maybe it's time to do away with that, because they're honestly a violent party, a criminal party, a terroristic party, a murderous party. They celebrate Luigi Mangione. They celebrate Hamas and condemn Israel. They celebrate criminals and condemn the police. the Democrat Party, it's maybe the party has run its course and it's time for them to move on. We'll create something else not at all like it. Not its likeness, but we will get something not at all like the Democrat Party to move forward. Amazing stuff. Oh, yeah, also the daughter of the terrorist, because, the media, they love terrorism and terrorists. They're the left and gang of murderers, Boulder, Colorado. But the daughter, it turns out, she was profiled in the Colorado Springs Gazette, the newspaper, the Colorado Springs Gazette, as you might imagine. And they have already done a profile on Habiba Soliman. Turns out there are a bunch of women in America named Habiba Soliman. I went to look her up, and there are a bunch of different Habiba Solimans. But this Habiba Soliman, it reminds me that the most popular name for a newborn boy in England, in Great Britain, is Mohammed. And but fear not, the second most popular name is also Mohammed, but by a different spelling, because there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they like to say in certain parts of the world. Yeah, but Habiba Soliman profiled in the Colorado Springs Gazette, a glowing profile, of course, because we are bad and everybody else is good, until you start, using your flamethrower on the Jews and Molotov cocktails and all of that. Now, the Democrat Party, I don't think are on the right side of anything, and it's probably time that they folded up their tents. And they are living in tents with the jihadis at this point. Amazing. They're on the wrong side of that. They're on the wrong side of men competing in women's sports against women and stealing their trophies and stealing their scholarships and stealing everything they've worked so hard for. And the Democrats are good with that because they are East Germany, like during the Cold War in the Soviet Union. The Democrat Party, they took the torch, from the Soviet Union and the East Germans, and now they're burning Teslas and burning Jews' houses with the torch that they've taken from their predecessors in the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler and beyond. The lie told once remains a lie. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. Is that Joseph Goebbels or the David Hogg of the Democrat Party? And what is going on with David? Speaking of David Hogg and the Democrat Party, we've got our favorite child prophet of doom, who is just, von Thunberg, Greta von Thunberg, who's headed to Gaza on a multi-million-dollar sailing yacht. It's a very luxurious protest. It's only very, very wealthy Western people can protest like this. But Greta von Thunberg, she's out there. She's headed to Gaza to supplement and supply and give sustenance to, and maybe more for all we know, to the Hamas terrorists, the genocidal death cult of Hamas. And blood-drenched though they may be, they've got their teen prophet of apocalyptic doom, Greta von Thunberg, headed there. And they're afraid that her yacht might be sunk. It's not her yacht, of course. It's always somebody else's yacht, but she's a lefty after all. But she moved seamlessly from, oh, my God, the climate is going to kill us all, to, oh, my God, we've got to kill all the Jews. That's kind of a strange shift, but that's where the left is. If you're a lefty, I think that you're probably mentally ill. Oh, speaking of which, we've got an update on that, too, because there is another story about the Democrats and mental illness. Hey, wait, I think there were two stories on that at least. I see only one in the story sheet. But the Why So Blue, liberal women are less happy. This was a story from a couple of years ago, and the liberal women are the least happy people in America, the least happy people in the world, because they're liberal women. And look at the men they're surrounded with and all that. Nothing good can come of that. But another story out yesterday about how liberals are the least happy people, according to studies. It's psychological studies and all that. The least happy people are who? They're left-wing liberals. Left-wing liberals. And who is Gloria Romero? I've got a Gloria Romero story for you. I know I didn't know who she was either, but I've got her coming up for you because pretty amazing stuff, I've got to say. Pretty amazing stuff. And that's just scratching the surface. But the Democrat Party, should the Democrat Party be disbanded? Should the Democrat Party go the way of the Whig Party, which is no more for Democrats. It was an old American political party, and they don't run candidates anymore. And I think maybe the Democrat Party probably shouldn't either. We've got so much to be concerned about. Even John Fetterman, he's a Democrat senator, isn't he? And he was somehow elected or appointed or some very third world. Everything is third world. And he is the one who seems to make more sense than any other Democrat now, which is pretty desperate, I've got to say. Also, Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King. He went to a public event, and he was up on stage, and he was interrupted, heckled, cut off by a series of radical left-wing extremist Democrats who should be wearing armbands. The Democrat Party, you should be required to wear an armband so that we know who you are in public. You can decide what maybe something like a twisted cross, since dog is your co-pilot and you're anti-religion, unless, of course, the person is a radical Islamic jihadi, in which case they have your full-throated support. Can you say full-throated in the context of Democrats and their support? Pretty amazing stuff. So we've got that. Also, the poll numbers showing the Democrats are doing very badly. And the news media, like the people at CNN, they're traumatized by this, quite traumatized. Oh, no, our poll numbers, look at her. I can't believe Republicans are doing better. How did that happen? And they just want to get, the Democrat Party to the front row, because the news media is the filthiest, most corrupt institution in America. And I've got several things for you on that, because it's about time we called them out. CNN has one person that makes sense. His name is Scott Jennings. And a lot of fun with him yesterday, because Tim Walz, the man who would be vice president, who can't load a 12-gauge shotgun and claims that he was in the military and served in Iraq when he didn't, which is okay when you're a Democrat. The news media forgets about that over lunch with each other while they're touching each other, because they're just a freak show. Oh, we have Jasmine Crockett today, too, because she's a hero of the Democrat Party. But our media is the worst, just the absolute worst, and that's because they're the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party, and I've been asking this question for how long now, Michael, for how long? At what point do we declare the Democrat Party to be a terrorist organization? How many incidents do there have to be? How many suicide attacks that are murderous? How many self-immolations? How many arson attacks on the Jewish governor's mansion? How many politicians have to be shot, from Donald Trump to Steve Scalise and on before the Democrat Party, which assassinated 3 of our 4 assassinated U.S. presidents. We've had 4 presidents assassinated. 3 of them were Republican presidents, including, of course, the first ever Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, who took away their slaves. And then they had to shoot him in the head and kill him, because he's the first Republican president. And the Democrat Party, then they killed 2 more Republican presidents. And then 1 Democrat was assassinated by a communist, either that or by the CIA, but I think probably a communist. Amazing stuff. And we had Chunk Todd. Chunk, he's trying desperately to remain relevant in some way. And I got a little bit of chunk for you, because chunk. So they're on the wrong side of that, the Democrats. They're on the wrong side of men competing as women, because they've lost control of their senses, if they ever had control of their senses. Pretty amazing stuff. And boy, are they on the wrong side of everything. I got a little bit of The View. That's a TV show on ABC News. ABC News. That's a news show under ABC News. They have George Snuffleupagus over here, whose qualification to be a journalist and a multi-million-dollar anchorman. He's $25 million a year. $25 million a year for George Stephanopoulos, because he worked in the Clinton White House, and that's what qualifies him to be a journalist and a $25 million anchorman on ABC. There are no conservatives that have been given any of those jobs by the networks. Never have been. Never will be. The networks should probably be folded up with the Democrat Party. I got a bunch of great stuff for you today. We remain at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Yes. Yeah, the mental health of liberals versus conservatives surfaced again yesterday. And I want to share that with you. The numbers are quite stark. Self-described liberals not doing very well at all. That might explain the self-immolations and the suicide attacks and the depression. It's not funny, ask. It turns out 12 Jewish people in Boulder, Colorado were attacked, not just 8. Let's grab a phone call before we get to the crazy Democrats. And we got a lot of crazy Democrats today. Let's go to Matt calling from St. Louis, Missouri. Matthew, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris. Happy Tuesday in Jasmine Crackpot-topia.
Jasmine Crockett. She is one of the great winners of the Democrat Party, isn't she?
She is. And in addition to her, Jasmine Crackpot, graduate of MICDS here in St. Louis, wanted to apologize for a number of other things St. Louis has foisted upon the country. So in addition to Jasmine Crackpot, we've got former squad member Corazy Bush, although she, we fixed that last election. We've got Craxine Waters with the James Brown hair, graduate of Vashon High School here. We got the gentle giant, Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot, hands out, don't work. Crossing the river, born in East St. Louis, over in Illinois where the governors make their license plates. We've got Senator Little Dick Durbin. A little further out in Belleville toward Scott Air Force Base, we had James Hodgkinson, the would-be assassin. Back across the river, and back in time, we had the Dred Scott decision there in the old courthouse, now in the shadow of the arch. And last but not least, I'd like to apologize on behalf of St. Louis for Bud Light.
Well, the corporate leadership of the Tranheiser-Bush people, the Bud Light people. But you ticked off a pretty good litany there, Matt, of problems out of St. Louis. And I got to say, Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. That's right, which never happened. Big lie. The Democrats rioted. Wonder how many people they killed because of Michael Brown, the Democrats. I still have, Matt, my hands up, don't shoot T-shirt at home that I bought at a Black Lives Matter march in Washington, D.C. That was even before the Democrat Party had gone completely and utterly insane. But I've got an update on that coming up.
I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. But it's Ted Cruz. This dude has to be knocked over the head hard, right? There is no niceties with him.
Jasmine Crockett, Democrat, member of the House of Representatives, advising deadly violence be perpetrated against Elon Musk because she is a Democrat and they're violent criminals. Democrats tend to be violent criminals. Now, why would that be? Maybe it's because of their mental illness. I think it was Dr. Michael Savage, the talk show host, used to say that liberalism is a mental illness. And some people would scoff perhaps. But I've got to say, I got a friend sent along a tweet yesterday, communication with me and Charlie Kirk, for example, the great Charlie Kirk. He tweeted a Nate Silver. Nate Silver is this 538 polling guy who's a liberal Democrat, Nate Silver. And Charlie Kirk tweeted yesterday, got the ball rolling, I think. Nate Silver's latest blog post notes that conservatives are up 31 points among those with self-described and excellent mental health. Okay. Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing? And for conservatives, if you had once described as having poor mental health, that number is down 26%. So good mental health, excellent mental health, up, and that's excellent because it's excellent mental health, up 31 points for conservatives, but not so much for Democrats. And it's kind of a remarkable thing. The higher self-reported mental health correlates with conservative political views, says the Nate Silver site. But honestly, Charlie Kirk pointing out if you're happy and well-adjusted, vote Republican. Well, I might suggest that if you're happy and well-adjusted, you already vote Republican because that seems to be what the polling indicates here. The Democrats have turned themselves into the party of the neurotic, the unstable, and the miserable, says Charlie Kirk after looking at the numbers from the Nate Silver people here. And it's quite remarkable. It's true. They've got a graphic right here. And under the headers of liberal on the left, moderate in the middle, conservative on the right. And then if you ask self-reporting mental health, if you say that your mental health is excellent, that's 51% of conservatives say my mental health is excellent. Only 20% of Democrats say their mental health is excellent. And some of them think that their mental health is excellent while they're planning to murder a CEO.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives. And unfortunately, there's plenty to go around.
Ayanna Pressley, Democrat Congresswoman, the world is miserable, so I'm going to be miserable forever because I'm a Democrat member of the House of Representatives. How oppressed must she be? Isn't that amazing? So the Nate Silver people, self-reported mental health, excellent self-reported mental health. 51% of conservatives say excellent. Only 20% of liberals say excellent. Next down, very good. So excellent or very good. 39% of conservatives say very good. Very good. So that's good. What do we have? That's 90% now? Isn't that amazing? Because you had 51% and 39%. Hey? That's 90% of conservatives, self-described conservatives, say that our mental health is either excellent or very good. And then that's 90%. And then another 32%, according to Nate Silver, of conservatives say their mental health is good. Now, that is impossible because that's now 122%. I don't know how you do that, but that's it that they've got. And for liberals, 20% say their mental health is excellent. 26% say very good, right? And poor, now, if you're self-described liberal, 45% of liberals said in this survey that their mental health was poor. 45% say their mental health is poor, okay? And conservatives over here, 90% say their mental health is either excellent or very good. Isn't that wonderful? These people. Can I just say, these people? And it might explain the violence in the streets and the madness, the absolute craziness. Pretty appalling stuff. Now, when I saw this, I thought, well, isn't that fascinating? And I was reminded of another study that came out a couple of years ago that I talked about here on the radio. And it's a Pew Research study. You know, if you have an iPhone and you text somebody Pew, P-E-W, space P-E-W, you get lasers. Did you know that? It sends a laser show to, if you say Pew, text with an iPhone. That's part of the Chinese Communist propaganda thing. But you text Pew to somebody and you get a laser show. Pew, because it's like, you know, Star Wars or something like that. All right, so the Pew study. This is from 2021. White liberals disproportionately suffer from mental illness. White liberals disproportionately suffer from mental illness. Who didn't know that? Honestly, we've been watching it on parade for years now.
Mental health is a badly needed commodity right now.
That's for sure. That's Lunch Bucket Joe there. So a survey from a 2020 Pew poll indicates that white liberals disproportionately suffer from mental illness versus their conservative counterparts. The study, which examined white liberals, moderates, and conservatives, both male and female, found that conservatives were far less likely to be diagnosed with mental illness issues, mental health issues, than those who self-identified as either liberal or very liberal. Well, I would imagine, certainly. Young white women suffered the worst. I might say suffered the most, but that's me. White women aged 18 to 29 who identified as liberal were given a mental health diagnosis from medical professionals at a rate of 56.3%, as opposed to 28 points. So that's well over half, right, of white women, liberals, 18 to 29. Well over half, 56.3%, have actually been diagnosed with a mental health issue by medical professionals, by doctors. So they're checking in. Hi, I'm a white liberal woman and I'm mentally ill. And that's great. Compared to 28.4% for moderates and only 27.3% for conservatives. Zach Goldberg, PhD candidate in political science, consolidated the study's information into a set of visuals and posted them on a thread on Twitter. Goldberg included the following disclaimer and I didn't write this thread to mock white liberals. You don't have to. All you have to do is lay out the scientific evidence, and they mock themselves. Isn't that amazing? Or their apparent disproportionate rates of mental illness, he says. Rather, this is a question that is underreported and which may shed light on attitudinal differences toward various social policies. Yeah, it's all about my social policies. Just amazing stuff. So that's great. And when I saw this fun tweet pop yesterday, I said, "Oh, that reminds me. I remember this study, and I'm sure it's still true. It's not like they're getting better or anything." And then because what I do is I do research and I find stuff. I have access to the internet. Have you heard about that? I went and I looked. This is the Family Studies website here. Why so blue? Don't even ask. Liberal women are less happy, more lonely. But why? And this is actually February 13th of 2025. Young liberal women are especially prone nowadays to reporting poor mental health. This was the discovery that Zach Goldberg made almost 5 years ago, poring over Pew data, Pew, in the spring of 2020. Further research in 2022 found that depression had surged among liberal high school girls in the last decade and a half, and much more so for them than other high schoolers, especially conservatives, because conservatives are much more happy, you know. And this study found that young conservative women are 3 times as likely to report being very satisfied with life compared to young liberal women. I'm sorry, what? Young conservative women are 3 times as likely to be very satisfied with life than young liberal women? Yes, that's correct. Just amazing stuff. And the 2 major factors, church and marriage, this is kind of amazing, account for about half of the ideological gap among young women in a multivariate analysis and of life satisfaction that includes control factors like race, education, and income. The Democrats love race. They're still trying to make up for being slave traders and slave drivers and plantation runners and for being the Confederate States of America and Jim Crow. Now, liberal women are less likely to be integrated into core American institutions like marriage and religion and belonging to a church and going to a church, and marriage and religion tend to lend meaning and offer direction in life, a sense of solidarity to women's lives. But the Democrat Party, they're just not well. They really aren't, and the violent criminal insanity and terrorism and suicide attacks contribute to all that.
These last 2 years and some months has caused a lot of us to go through individual and group therapy. It has caused a lot of us to feel a bit of despair and depression and anxiety and fear.
I thought that was a weird speech because she was wearing a suicide vest with the detonator clutched in her right fist at the podium. And fortunately, she was stopped. She didn't self-detonate, as so many Democrats have these days. The self-immolation, the murders, the assassinations, the Democrat Party supporting Hamas, supporting men competing as women, supporting riots. And, that was Kamala. She actually helped raise money for bail for criminals that were rioting and burning our cities from coast to coast because St. George Floyd had died of cardiac failure while resisting arrest in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Isn't that amazing? Just crazy Democrats. I am telling you. All right, let's take another phone call, Michael. And I've got some great audio for you today about the Democrat Party and why perhaps it should be dissolved. It should be disbanded. Maybe it shouldn't be a political party in the United States anymore. It should just be the Communist Party and then the Republican Party, because they're coming out of the closet all over the place. Most of their men are women, and a lot of their women have really good mustaches. They don't have everything that you need, but they do have mustaches. I'll give them that much. All right, let's take a phone call. We got transgender sports, and we've got a border update and the largest ICE raid ever, which the Democrats are responsible for. The terrorist attacks, which the Democrats are responsible for because they're responsible for the open borders. They celebrate murderers like Luigi Mangione. Are they on the wrong side of everything? Let's take a phone. Let's go to Randy, calling from the great state of Arkansas. Randy, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, I've been a fan of yours on the radio for years, and now I'm enjoying your show on Newsmax.
Oh, thank you very kindly.
But I wanted to tell you, one of the things that first attracted me to you was when you, I think, correctly identified the cause of a lot of Democrats' behavior as a mental illness. But I think you have to maybe reconsider that primary diagnosis. In the Trump era, Trump puts out some comment that's bait, and they invariably take it and come out and attack him and end up looking like fools. He slaps them upside the head. And this happens over and over again. And now, of course, he's got his press secretary and a cabinet that are just almost as good as slapping him as Trump is. And, an animal, if you put bait out and they take it and then they get hit in the head, after a couple of days, they'd stop taking the bait. But Democrats don't do that. So I think we may have to consider that the new diagnosis is not just basic mental illness, but traumatic brain injury. Because they've been hit so many times.
It's like Trump brain injury, TBI in their case is Trump brain injury. And you're absolutely right. President Trump is so masterful at baiting them and goading them, and they fall for it every single time. They've been falling for it for years and years now. We had 4 years of Trump, then 4 years of Biden, and now we're back. And so, for how long are they going to keep falling for it? I got to tell you, Randy, I love the way you sum it up. You sum it up very eloquently, I might add, as well, very succinctly. And they're getting crazier and crazier, aren't they? And more violent.
Yeah, every time you think they can't get any worse, they prove you wrong.
They do. And let me tell you, Randy, I think... sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of getting hit in the face, I think the First Lady of France, when she shoves Macron in the people on the left are saying that very eloquently, I might add. The way we report it is misinformation.
Right. They love that misinformation, disinformation thing. That's from the Soviet playbook as well. They're the left. And Randy, one of the things we need to do, a pretty simple thing, but Republicans and the media need to do this. We need to stop referring to the left as blue and blue states and blue on red. We're the only country in the world that doesn't identify the left with red. They are redder than they've ever been. They are effectively the Soviet Union. They are East Germany, the Democrat Party of today. They even have men competing in sports as women like the East Germans used to do in the Soviet Cold War days and the Olympics and so on. Hey, I think that lady wrestler has an appendage in her. Yeah, that's because that lady wrestler is a man. That lady swimmer is a man, and the Democrats have literally adopted the East German sending men to the Olympics practices. Aren't they amazing? Randy, fun call. And thanks for the kind words about the Newsmax television show. Yeah, it's true, mental illness, and they do keep taking the bait. You're right, even animals are smarter and less violent, less murderous, too. Yeah, these are strange days in the United States of America, thanks to the Democrat Party. Thank you, Randy. We're at 888-630-9625.
I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning. All right, and people want to talk because people like, the truth. And so I've got a lot of crazy Democrats coming up. Should the party be dissolved? Might be the theme of the day. Right now, let's go to the telephones again, Michael. Let's go to Karen, calling from the beautiful Grand Rapids, Michigan. Karen, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris, I love your show.
Thank you.
I wanted to just point out I'm 60, so I'm no baby. Mm-hmm. When I was a young girl, and all my friends even, we often, I got a hope chest from my grandma. It was a cedar chest. It was hers. She gave it to me. And through my teen years, we would just look forward to our future. We would save things for a home we would have one time, getting married, just all kinds of dishes, all kinds of stuff. But it had a feeling like I knew who I was. And I did go to college. I became a nurse. And I had a lot of friends who went to college, too. So it wasn't like we were a bunch of uneducated idiots, just dribbling around in the kitchen. So I think that our identity was better defined. Now, so many young girls, in the 70s, we were taught, really you can just make it on your own, like Mary Tyler Moore. And there were a lot of shows on TV about single moms are so hip and cool. Who needs a husband? And then feminism really pushed it over the edge. I think so many girls now, even in their 30s and 40s, are just lost because they didn't get married. They spent 12 years at university, and now they're just angry Democrats. A lot of them are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I think you see a lot of the women are crazy on the street screaming.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've killed what used to be feminism. They've turned it into left-wing radicalism.